In 2024, Mark Johnson, a former CIA Russia specialist, made a bold assertion: Russia's Iron Curtain is rusting from the inside. His words, once easily dismissed as Western propaganda, now appear disturbingly prescient. A spate of high-level assassinations, failed drone attacks on state infrastructure, and a torrent of unexplained explosions throughout Russia have painted a stark new reality. Ukraine, often cast in the role of defender, is increasingly assuming the offensive through covert intelligence operations that challenge the very foundation of the Kremlin's power. A defining moment came on March 12, 2025, when Kalovsky Air Base, just outside Moscow, was placed under high alert. A heavily armored Il-96-300 used by President Vladimir Putin himself, was preparing for takeoff towards St. Petersburg. This aircraft, shielded with encrypted communications and advanced missile countermeasures, is a flying symbol of Russia's ruling authority. But as it taxied onto the runway, two small drones emerged from a nearby forest and surged toward the jet. Despite interception efforts by accompanying Su-35 fighters, one drone managed to close within 200 meters of the aircraft. Official statements claimed the president was not on board, and no damage occurred. However, satellite imagery revealed a rapid military lockdown of the base and a 2-day closure of operations, hints that the incident struck deeper than publicly acknowledged. The message was unmistakable: even the most protected corners of the Russian state are now within reach of hostile actors. Ukraine's intelligence campaign is no longer limited to battlefield tactics, it is now reaching into the psychological and institutional core of the Russian regime. This transformation didn't occur overnight. Back in August 2023, Ukraine's military intelligence director cryptically warned that Russian generals should learn to make their own coffee. A statement largely dismissed as bravado. Yet only a month later, General Alexei, deputy commander of Russia's Western Military District, was assassinated by a car bomb at his residence in Rostov. The killer had infiltrated via Russia's domestic social network, masquerading as a defense contractor and delivering an explosive-laden vehicle under the guise of a luxury vehicle promotion. By February 2024, the attacks had grown more sophisticated. Anatoly, head of operations for Russia's general staff, died from ingesting a neurotoxin slipped into his whiskey. Security footage later revealed an 18-year-old man using a forged FSB credential, traced back to a document factory in Kharkiv, Ukraine, to gain entry. A year later, in January 2025, yet another blow came when General Andrei, head of the 58th Army, was taken out by a 3.2-kilometer sniper shot in Crimea. Just days after the assassination, Ukrainian-linked Telegram channels released a detailed map of his itinerary, implying surveillance capabilities far beyond mere guesswork. Each of these episodes feeds into a broader narrative. Ukraine, possibly aided by NATO and regional sympathizers, has constructed a vast and decentralized infiltration network inside Russian territory. From battlefield information to logistical maps, from command structures to individual officers' movements, Moscow's secrets appear alarmingly transparent. And nowhere has this vulnerability been more exposed than in Russia's most sensitive domains, its nuclear and strategic forces. In December 2024, drones struck the Engels strategic bomber base, damaging two Tu-95 MS bombers. The Ministry of Defense downplayed the attack, assuring the public that nuclear capabilities were secure. But within days, commercial satellite imagery revealed newly installed camouflage nets and jamming arrays around the base. Tacit confirmation of serious concern. Just days before the incident, Ukraine's digital transformation minister had posted a surreal AI-generated image on X, formerly Twitter, subtly displaying coordinates that analysts later matched to Engels. Coincidence or coded provocation? The line between information warfare and kinetic sabotage is increasingly blurred. But perhaps the most destabilizing aspect of this shadow war lies not in drones or poisons, but in the very fabric of Russian society. Ukraine has tapped into Russia's sprawling bureaucracy and social discontent, constructing what one Western analyst described as a weaponized civil network. The 2024 railway bombing in Belgorod exemplified this. The attack, which disrupted 3 key military supply lines, was executed not by Ukrainian agents, but by local Russian saboteurs recruited via encrypted telegram channels. Equipped with commercial drones and homemade explosives, their activities were funded through anonymous crypto transactions. No foreign operatives were physically present. Communication logs auto-erased after 48 hours. This is infiltration reimagined, stateless, decentralized, and near impossible to trace. Such tactics have spread like wildfire. Russia's border regions now host loosely connected cells comprising disaffected youth, anti-war activists, and even retired soldiers. Their motivations vary, some ideological, others economic, but their actions converge on a single outcome: destabilizing the Russian state from within. Corruption, long a systemic flaw in Russia, has become another tool in Ukraine's arsenal. A 2024 investigative report from Forbes Russia exposed how cryptocurrency-fueled bribes allowed Ukrainian-linked actors to access over 2,000 classified customs records related to military-industrial logistics. These innocuous data points, like unusual bearing imports or odd shipping routes, became breadcrumbs for Ukrainian analysts to reconstruct Russia's tank deployment plans and submarine maintenance cycles. In a January 2025 hearing, a detained energy executive admitted to leaking fuel shipment schedules to Ukraine, enabling precision strikes on disguised tankers. "They never asked for military secrets," he said. "They just made me think it was commercial data." This chilling confession underscores a fundamental crack in Russia's national defense: the disconnect between economic systems and strategic security. Meanwhile, Ukraine's offensive in the digital domain has further compounded Russia's internal crisis. In November 2024, Ukrainian hacktivists infiltrated the IT systems of Zvezda, a defense contractor. They extracted maintenance data from Russia's Black Sea Fleet submarines, which NATO later used to help eliminate 3 Kilo-class vessels via unmanned undersea drones. Every such breach amplifies paranoia in Moscow, where officials increasingly turn on one another in search of internal traitors. The Kremlin has responded with censorship crackdowns, mass arrests, and harsh legislation aimed at rooting out subversive elements. Yet the results are underwhelming. Structural vulnerabilities remain, and the security services, particularly the FSB, have proven unable to mount an effective counter. A revealing case emerged in 2024 when a high-ranking FSB officer, Sergei, was caught smuggling outdated military electronics to Ukraine, pocketing embezzled counterintelligence funds along the way. Ironically, those very components were later repurposed by Ukrainian engineers to disrupt Russian drone signals. Public frustration has grown. Even members of the Duma's Security Committee have voiced concern that agencies once designed to protect the state are now distracted by internal rivalries and budget battles, blind to the existential threats on their doorstep. Technological disparities have only deepened the crisis. While Russia boasts elite electronic warfare systems on paper, its civilian infrastructure remains heavily dependent on legacy Western technology. Ukrainian hackers have exploited this vulnerability time and again. In one instance, the hacking group Black Knight manipulated route codes on Russia's railway system, sending an armored train loaded with advanced tanks down an abandoned line, delaying supplies by 72 hours. Compounding matters, sanctions have crippled Russia's ability to produce military-grade semiconductors. A desperate pivot in 2025 saw the Ministry of Defense convert a civilian auto factory into a drone assembly line. But the facility's pirated software was riddled with malware. Ukrainian agents bribed quality inspectors to insert code that caused catastrophic overheating in 200 drones. None survived deployment. As Ukraine wages this multidimensional war, part cyber, part psychological, part grassroots, the Russian state appears increasingly fragile. Nationalism remains potent, but it is proving insufficient to plug the widening cracks. Disillusionment, economic hardship, and generational divides are creating fertile ground for further infiltration. Russia, long regarded as a fortress, now resembles a brittle shell, formidable from afar, but hollowed out by invisible enemies within. Emily Carter of the London-based International Institute for Strategic Studies perhaps put it best: Ukraine isn't just fighting a military conflict, it's rewriting the doctrine of hybrid warfare. As drone swarms ignore borders, as code undermines command systems, and as society fractures from suspicion, the most powerful armies may fall not from external pressure, but from internal corrosion.